Good evening, everybody. It's well, 1 o'clock in the morning here. I've been busy with other things, but I thought I really got to get some machines done because I'm falling behind there, amongst a million other things that I'm falling behind with. So yeah, let's try use a few of the late night hours and try and get ahead. It doesn't help that I fall asleep during the day sometimes, but I suppose that's because I stay up. It's a bit of a vicious cycle. Okay. So, yeah, so we've got this 150, I'm pretty sure it's 1502. Please don't be a 1425. Yep, 1502. And supposedly MagSafe chipmunk flashes once. And then nothing more. So let's see what we can do. So it's had a little bit of a rough life. MagSafe comes up, flashes once, 500, 700, 900, 1 amp, 1.3. So it looks like it's charging the battery, but something's going on. There's a short on another rail somewhere in there. Alrighty then. Well, guess that simplifies that. At least the error report matched what we found. Hey John, Ed, Arnold, Greg, Paul Baker, hello Paul, Blazing Magazine, Yosef, Michael, so many people. What am I trying to do here? Oh yeah, that's right, I'm trying to get the bottom off. Sometimes these screws can be a little fiddly. Hey, oh no, that's alright. No, it's not booting. Does it say 1505? Oh well, whoop-de-doo. I'll change that in after the stream. I can't really change it now anyway. It's committed. YouTube's put it out there. The thumbnail's also wrong as well. But when it's this hour of the night, I just need to focus on fixing the machine. No, it's not booting because the chipmunk doesn't fire up. Flashes once and then goes back to sleep. Nah. Oops. Okay, so this is a 2015 unit. Yeah, some chewed up trackpad cable there. That's probably going to need replacing. It's the joy of get gravel in these things, and the gravel just, rubs up against or gets stuck on this trackpad cable, and it gets pushed down. Whenever you put your case down, it applies pressure, and it breaks the trace lines in there. Okay, so we need a T5. I had my T5, well, a couple of hours ago. Where are you, T5? There you are. Starting to run out of your red colour. Trying to fix that up, get you a little redder. I colour the most common screwdrivers I have. It just makes it easy for me. Oh yes, I saw the Formula 1 race. Well, I saw the end of it. Honestly, I'm not, yeah, it's like, okay, Max won it this year. Quite frankly, there's been a bit of dodgy... Yeah, there's just so much dodgy that goes on with those races that you can't just go by the one-off instance. I mean, Mercedes and, what's his name? Hamilton has gotten away with a bunch of things, and then Red Bull's gotten away with a bunch of things. They all get away with a bunch of things, so quite frankly, if Mercedes has now not bothered to do the appeal, then they're obviously sort of like, yeah, okay, yeah, we're just going to let this one go, and it could have gone either way. Tim do another CPU transplant, did he? I did see him do the first one. And I noticed it wasn't successful, most likely because it was a bit of a dodgy one from dodgy land. don't use some red electrical tape? Mostly because, well, I find the tape gets in the way. But, you know, I've got like a black, a red, a green, I've got a couple of others. But, yeah, I find just using pen works well enough. And that pen's been on there for a couple of years now. It's the first time I've actually had to fix it up. So it did pretty good for the period of time. He didn't? He was installing a 7th on a 6th. Oh, really? Huh. Whoops. That's one of those sort of unfortunate things you can end up doing accidentally. I was not supposed to take that screw off. Sorry. With the 1502, the fan stays attached to the logic board. It's just easier this way. And I had to back up a bit there to realise that, of course, is a Phillips, because why not? What I'm hoping for in a hurry is for Formula E to kind of ramp up the power capability of their machines. Yeah, something around about the 350, 400 kilowatt. Get over 300 k's an hour. Because, yeah, the street circuits are kind of fun, but after a while you sort of get a little bit sick of the street circuits. You want to see good racing on an actual proper circuit. Hey Keith, hey Sonia. I do hate the keyboard connector, well, not the keyboard connector, but the keyboard flex on these machines. There's just not enough room between the battery plastic barrier and the flex, the FPC connector. Let's see, am I done? Sort of do these things subconsciously. Sometimes you can't remember whether you're finished or not. Yeah, looks like we're done. Yep. Hey, Jaden E. I'll just cram that in there. Alright, so we're probably looking for a moderately noticeable short, but we'll see. Let's have a look under the microscope. Assuming the microscope works. Hey, it does today. Alright, let's start the looky-loo. Well, there's certainly already a bit of grit and junk. Just normal stuff. And it often can translate into some sort of shorts. Particularly, what happens is usually that grit and junk. Man, this person lives by the beachside. The grit and junk collects dust, and the dust collects moisture when the... There we go. TPS... shite. I hope that's not the case. We could have a dead CPU here. 51980 being dead. We'll keep checking, maybe we're lucky. But I have a feeling we're probably going to be looking at dead CPU. Really, of all the places for corrosion to make an appearance, it happens to be on that chip. $49.24. Okay, let's check on this side. Yeah, it could actually just be a bad daughter board, but we'll definitely be having to replace that TPS. Now the reason why I'm cursing about the fact that the TPS has corrosion around it is because that, at least I'm pretty sure, manages the CPU voltages. So maybe, if we're lucky, we will have that junk on a part of the circuit that doesn't say let's go to 12 volts onto the CPU. I guess we just have to replace it and find out. Right, slightly out of focus. It's not much corrosion there, but it's on the wrong kind of chip to have corrosion. I should rather say the chip we don't want to have corrosion. Hey Andre, Arnold. Hey Horst. Come on. Not really sure what those two pins managed, but we'll go have a look. Hey Rilla, evening. Yeah, we're on the wrong board. Okay, so it was... Let's see. Okay, that's feedback. And yeah, okay. So 9 and 10. Compensation. Well, it hopefully didn't cause any trouble, but we'll see. We'll see. So as we always test the diode modes. So we've got 5.8 and 7.3. Although it's not going to make any sense at this point because there's no chip. Okay, open, unopened, yeah, there's no chip there, so that will make no sense at all. Yep, good on you, Paul. What's the guess? I've already stripped them from, yeah, I already stripped it from this board. Yep. Or is it? Yeah, that's the ISL. Oh wow, this one's got an SMC. What board is this? 3437. I'm just not used to seeing with SMC still attached. Yeah, that's got the TPS removed. Okay, this will be a replacement TPS on here, so I might actually just take this one. This is a board that I attempted to repair, and I think it worked for a little while, and then it said, I give up. And so rather than try to make it work again, I just ditched it. It's 3X. Evening. Yeah, okay, pin 1's bottom right, which is what we've got, so we're good. Just gonna add a little bit of flux. Not too much. We don't have shares in AMTech Flux, and we don't make profit from selling AMTech Flux, unlike some people. So therefore, we don't go around telling everyone to use copious quantities of flux. Okay, it's good. I'm just going to give it another reheat, give it a chance in case there's any little microscopic threads of solder sitting underneath that didn't break, retract back after I squeezed out the solder. Morning, Ron. Should become official distributor of AMTech Flux in Australia. Ah, no thanks. No thanks. I've already bought a few loads of flux from them, a few boxes. Yeah, just for myself, and I really wouldn't want to have to be dealing with that. I mean, initially you sort of think, oh yeah, that might work, but yeah. Being a distributor of things like that is just a nightmare. Then you got to deal with people who didn't get their orders, or people who weren't happy with their orders, or orders that haven't arrived quick enough, or it sucks. It really sucks being a distributor. Unless you're specifically geared to distribute stuff, then it's just not worth the drama. Hey Travis, not in a chatting mood, eh? Well, that's okay. We all can have days like that. I'm kind of feeling that way right now. Let's see if this is any better. Probably not. Tried something. Well, that obviously wasn't the fault. Although maybe it was the fault. But it's not a simple one-step fault in this case. Maybe it's a complicated thing. Let's see, resistance. Who would have thought? A complicated fault. Let's see. Oh. Methinks CPU very dead. 0.2. 0.2, that's way too low for this board. Schematics. What? No data for that? How can I not have data for that particular one? That sucks. Preferences. That's more like it. 1,127 points of data. Okay. Oh, damn it. Whoever put this data in did not do the resistance mode. Diode mode on CPU is basically useless. Crap. But yeah, my guess is that CPU took a hit. I mean, it's possible there's a shorter cap on here. I mean, it is junky enough, that's for sure. But yeah, 99% of the time when that TPS gets hit, this is usually end of the road. We'll pull the inductors off, see if we have any luck, see what side of the inductors the short is. Could be lucky, it could be on the other side. Yeah, it could be a MOSFET that's gone to ground. We'll see. I'll try and stay on this side of the inductors and hope the heat just migrates through so I don't mess up the CPU, just in case the CPU is in fact okay. W. Alright, let's see where our shorty short is. So we have 100 ohms on that side, which is pretty much right. And we have less than an ohm on the CPU side. CPU's trucked, or at least one of the caps are. So what we'll do is we'll inject some voltage, but I think we can pretty much presume this one's gone. You have to take both of the inductors off because they're two separate phases outputting to the same power rail. So if you just remove one, it doesn't actually isolate the circuit. And of course it depends on the configuration. You can get some that have got 3 phases, so you have to get rid of 3 separate inductors. At least in this scenario, we've got the data, and I can just basically replace the main board. I'm pretty sure I've got a few spares floating around. Maybe not to the same spec. I don't know what this one is. Looks like 2.7 or something. Jose, I am not the person to be asking about iPhones. You really need to ask people like the Rossman forums or Discord, or if you're really in with him, you could ask Jason Vollmer, but he will probably say nay. Probably because he's flat out busy fixing his own stuff. But you can always try. Yeah. Like I said, we may be lucky here. Could be one of these caps just given up and said, I don't want to work anymore. Talk to my union boss. I want a pay raise. Sick of doing this work. And when you first start repairing these boards, you often think that these inductors are stuffed because there's a notch out of them, but that is actually how they are. Okay, we're going to put a volt in here and see what gets warm. We know at least the CPU can take 1 volt. Although with that sort of short that it has, I doubt we'll see it even reach 1 volt. Oh, crikey. Probably get stuck at like 0.75 volts or something like that. Because the current limiting will kick in from the power supply. Ah man, I'm soldering like 2 cent. Where the hell's my ground wire? Is that a burn mark in the plastic surrounding the die? Yeah, that's probably just bubbling up from when I removed the inductors. Seriously now, where the hell? Oh, I know where my ground wire is. My ground wire is still attached to the sad A1502 with a whopping great big crater hole in it. No saving that one. That one's a parts board, complete with someone's precious data on it that they'll never get off. It's just the way it goes. Hey, Makakiram, there's a name I haven't said in a while. Or is it? Pretty sure I haven't said your name in a while. Yeah, it's a shonky joint, but it'll do the trick. Can you please show what a current sense resistor looks like? Well, it really depends on the construction. Yeah, it depends on the choice, but like that's one there, and you can get other ones. Hey, I just noticed that's all messed up, sulfated. Let's see, there's a current sense resistor. They come in all different shapes and sizes. Any resistor can be a current sense resistor. But the best or the better design is to have a 4-wire resistor to do current sensing. And if you're wondering why would you need 4 wires on a resistor, I suggest you go have a look at the concept of a Kelvin connection or a 4-wire sense to explain it. Essentially what the purpose is that you have the main pair which actually carries the current that you're sensing, and then you have the sense pair, and there's no current being drawn over that pair. It's one of those weird things, simple things, but it just, if you haven't got your head around it, it can seem a little bizarre. But it's important that because you see, if you try to measure a voltage drop across a resistor and then send it back up a line that's got a lot of current flowing across it, then you're going to have a voltage drop across the wire itself, like as in that you're using to take back to the meter. And so that's why instead you have a sense pair, and it only carries microamps power, whatever your meter or device is using, and therefore you don't get a voltage drop, and therefore you get a more accurate reading. Which is why with power supplies, you'll often find power supplies can have a 4 ports on them for one output, and you'll find that 2 of the ports are for sense, and that way you can have a more accurate voltage at the board. Because right now, if I say put 5 amps over these cables, say the cables are 0.01 ohms total, the loop is 0.01 ohms. That means even though the power supply puts out, say, 5 volts, what you get on the board will be 4.95. So you get that drop. So what you can do is, if you really do need accurate voltages on board, you have a sense pair that go back to the power supply. So the power supply adjusts itself based on what it actually measures on the board rather than what it measures at the terminals on the output. A service PC specialist. Alrighty. Let's just see what happens when I put 1 volt 3 amp. Yeah, it goes straight off. Let's throw a bit of liquid liquid heat sensor. Let's see, here we go. Yeah, boom, right there. That is a dead CPU, I'm afraid. Yeah, well. Clean this up, throw it in the bin, find another job. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. Always appreciate people promoting and buying my software. Keeps me alive. Much appreciated. Yeah, this is really silly. This is why you shouldn't use a micro pencil for heavy connections. Let's get some assistance. Oh, don't do that. That is the only trouble I have with the Atom, is sometimes you press the button when you're not supposed to press the button. Okay. Throw it in the other pull queue. I don't think even Paul would be able to fix the internals of that. No real point putting those inductors back on. That is the worst bit I find. Well, the bit I can never really decide on when it comes to dead machines like this is like, is there any point putting stuff back together? But sometimes you just have to. And people want their corpses back in the same state that they sent them to you. Alright. Let's find another job. What do we got? Ah, another 1502. Oh, that's just weird. That's weird because I thought you were a 1466. What? Could have sworn. Okay. Could have sworn I had a 1466. I guess not. Another 1502 in that case. I'll just have to take the bottom case off this one separately. Should the CPU get hot if you do voltage injection on the CPU side, which has the shorted cap on the line? No, the CPU shouldn't get hot. The cap should warm up, but the CPU shouldn't. And generally, the CPUs, when they heat up, they shouldn't heat up in one spot. They should heat up more evenly, as it were. Oh yeah, the 7/17th, uh-huh. Well, as my wife would say, the sun hasn't come up, so it's not the next day yet. But a dead CPU goes in line with the corrosion damage that we saw. So essentially what probably happened is that because one of the voltage rails fed back into the feedback pin of the controller, then the controller would have been trying to compensate for the high or low voltage, and subsequently it just would have gone full throttle one way or the other, not realizing that it was frying the CPU with a higher voltage than what it was meant to have. Very unfortunate. That's the way it goes. Okay, what have we got? An earlier model here. This is a... what is this? 2012? Job 1071. SMC fault causing kernel panic. We'll need board logic repair. Okay, alright. Looks like we've already been told what its problem is. Guess we'll just take the board out and have a look. Hey, Moody, greetings from Tennessee. You can replace the CPUs, it's just not it's not viable, that's the problem. Like, I've got donor boards. It's particularly with things like the 1502s, you're going to get donor boards for these machines, because what will happen, or what does happen with a lot of these, is that the screens get damaged. And when the screens on a 1502 get damaged, as well as 1398s, the economic viability just dies. So they become parts machines. And subsequently, you tend to end up with quite a few viable mainboards, but not so many viable chassis. So yeah, it's $600 still Australian. So what is that? 450, 500 US for a screen for these machines. And yeah, people just don't want to pay that anymore. They may as well just go out and get a new M1. Particularly now that the M1 series machines are actually not too bad. And of course, you've got the new ones that actually have ports that everybody wants. You're quite right, you just keep jumping out there. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure which board this is, 3.6 or something like that, 3.7, I'm not sure. No point in me guessing until I open it up. I can see corrosion over here on the 342 area, I think. Oh no, 342's on the other side. Anyway, it looks like there's corrosion on this board. So hopefully it's not like a yogurt spill everywhere scenario. Hopefully it's a little more localized, a little more repairable. Make it viable for me to actually spend my time doing this. Apples are easier to digest than Windows, yes. And of course, trying to eat Windows will create tremendous physical damage to your teeth and gums. So I'll take an apple a day. One problem that this particular model tends to have is the flex gets damaged, and it's underneath the battery, of course. La 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 la. One more screw to go. There we go. Why would you choose Apple over Windows laptop? Even Windows laptop offers better performance. The operating system, macOS, and the whole ecosystem is generally nicer than Windows. But that's a personal choice. I personally am not a great fan of Windows, never have been, and that's right from version 1. And I can actually honestly say I've used version 1 all the way up to the latest. Joy of being a 70s kid is that you've got to grow up with all of this stuff. Alright, I can't see any corrosion around the SMC, so we're going to have to sniff around and see what's going on. Mind you, I myself, this is Linux, my workstation's Linux, my recovery machines are Linux. The only, that's nasty. Hopefully that didn't go in too far. I could explain why the SMC is having hellish problems. I'm pretty sure that's 342. 342 would be rather unstable, I'm going to guess, based on that corrosion. And so it would be inducing a lot of SMC resets. So 3476. Okay, we've just got to put that into my system. This is 1071. 820-3476. I'm just going to check everywhere else. So this is the only time you get to view the board for the first time without too many preconceived notions of what you're supposed to be looking for. Oh yeah, that looks like Allsys Power Good type stuff, or something leading into Allsys Power Good. I forget what it is. Oh no, my bad. It's the EDP. Then, I think what it is that there is a chip, that same logic chip, used next to Allsys Power Good. What are you? 74 LVC 2G32. Let's see if I'm wrong or right. 2G32 GT. Okay, that's that one. No, I'm wrong. Oh well. Pierre, Ed, Ed. Well, obviously that's going to have to be cleaned up, and like I said, this is why you need to take the opportunity to look at the board, the first time over. I'm just struggling to get ideal focus here. There we go. Because I could have easily gone and fixed that SMC issue. It probably... the SMC itself is also cactus. Why? I don't want to do an SMC at 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, come on. Oh, man. Oh, this just all of a sudden became an unpleasant fix. Damn you people. Alright, let's fix up this stuff. Why me? Why me at 2 o'clock in the morning? Guess it's gotta be somebody. Surprised there isn't a great degree of jubilation going on, given how much people want SMC repairs. Or has my chat just decided to die on me? I'm going to take that resistor as well. Yeah, CPU swapping. I'll leave that to the fools. Yeah, it'd be pretty hard to convince me to do a CPU swap for these kind of boards. Right, find ourselves a 3476 board, since we're going to have to pull a SMC off it anyway. Let's hope I've actually got one. $49.24. Yeah, it's... I don't know, what is that one? Damn it, $49.24. Shame. $49.24, shock horror. $49.24, well, shock frickin' horror. $34.76, sweet. And it has an SMC on it, thank goodness. Yeah, I don't think I'll be doing a CPU swap challenge yet. I ain't that good. This is a pretty messed up looking part, but it will do. I do have one of those heating stations, but not as good as the one that Tim's got. Mind you, even those stations, they're still quite entry level. Yeah, there's no optical alignment or anything like that, unlike the one that, say, Lewis has. I hate it when I knock. Okay, pin top left. Pin one top left. I've just got to take some fibers off that. There's a couple of fibers down here. I don't want them being embedded under the chip. As you got no idea how they will interact. The hot air stations, like I just spooled down. That resistor. And send it to re-education camp so it no longer resists inappropriately. We didn't put the flux down far enough. Okay, that's all good. I'm fixing up the stuff that isn't the SMC first. This is actually that's an ugly place for this sort of activity to be happening. It's yuck. Yuckity, yuckity, yuck. Right next to that nice plastic connector that's probably going to get destroyed. I'll do my best not to destroy it, but it's probably going to get destroyed. And that corrosion is well and truly embedded itself in there, so we're probably going to end up doing some trace repair or something like that. Oh boy, just what I always want to do. Have you found any angled oh yeah, I've actually got angled nozzles, I just don't use them. I don't like them. Not much of a fan of the angled nozzle because they are 45-degree cut rather than what I believe they should be, which is, I feel like they should be round bend, kind of like if you're a plumber, you prefer to have your pipes not taking sharp angles. That's how I feel about the hot air nozzles. Sorry, I'm just trying to find an appropriate metal plate for what I'm doing here. Oh yeah, that might actually kind of not work. So we're just going to have to take all three of those parts off. There's no point trying to keep any of them. So we've got a diode and a divider mostly. I think that's my... Something smells like pork roast and I'm guessing it's me. Let's see what we can do. Hopefully this is a viable recovery area. I am worried of course about the traces, the circuit board, all the rest of that stuff and jazz. Sorry. The soldering iron handle got snared on my fingertip as I was backing out, and I was worried it was going to land on me and unleash some more Chinese pork, barbecue pork smell. It's a pretty ugly situation for this pad here. Now I'm hoping that it's actually just and this one's not looking so crash hot either, but it is intact. Yeah, I'm hoping this is just a common line between the two divider resistors. Hoping. When's the last time you had Huntsman come to the shop? I do get small ones around here. The most recent large one I've seen was actually in my car. They like to live in the cars. It's a good environment. Safe for them, and there's always something that they can chew on. Yeah, the last one I found, it was probably about 4 or 5 inch like diameter around on the legs. And there's so many different types of huntsmans too. We get a lot of wolfies here. Anytime at night time, you walk around the house, you'll see wolfies going about their business, which is pretty cool. And by their business, I mean hunting and attacking various bugs that you don't want in your house. They're very handy critters to have. Do geckos eat huntsmen? They try, and sometimes they succeed. You'll often see spiders with missing a leg or two, and it's because of geckos. I don't approve of it, particularly that most of the time the geckos are the invasive ones, not the native ones. Okay, so this is a teeny tiny safety diode of some sort. Crap. I'm lost. Ah. I'm found again. I'm not doing a full reflow of those parts straight away. I only want to expose that connector to that sort of heat once if I have to. Inches. No, 4 to 5 inches, that's about right. If you look up, I think it's called a badge huntsman. But yeah, inches is about right. 10 to 12 centimeters. Obviously that's not the body. Yeah, obviously that's not the body size, that's the legs included. Rifat, it's 1502. I was just typing badly at this late hour of night, so you'll have to forgive me for my incompetence. Alright, they're in there good enough. I'm not going to mess with that. That actually is good enough. Hey, 10-minute tech. Been a while since I've seen you. Slacking off. Look at this poor SMC. Apart from the fact that it's corroded, it looked beautiful. And now we're gonna ruin its everything. Alright, where the heck's my Reaper? Ah. Yeah, huntsmans are, when they run, there's nothing unmanly about feeling threatened. They, as you said, they run in a very creepy way. It takes a lot of mental control to not spasm when they run on you. Yeah, they're not trying to attack you, you just happen to be what they're choosing to run on at the time. They got no intent of actually biting you. But it's very hard not to spasm when they do that, because they feel funny and it's just unnerving. We did have a snake in the house the other night, Carpentaria snake. Not the sort of snake I want in the house. Unfortunately, I don't know whether someone brought it in from outside or whether it crawled under the door gap or what, but anyway, it was deceased when I found it, which is unfortunate too. I don't like to see snakes dead. I prefer that they stay alive, and I prefer that they're just not in my house. We actually get a fairly diverse range of snakes on this piece of land. I think there's at least 7 or 8 different types of snakes that we get here, just on this half acre property. Most of them are venomous, but not to the degree that when you think of snakes in Australia, you think of typically of things like taipans or browns, and obviously they're quite medically significant, which is the term we use. But a lot of these ones, they're mildly venomous or not medically significant. But it always pays to be cautious because, well, you may misidentify one, which isn't the hardest thing in the world to do. Misidentifying, a lot of people do it, and it's understandable. Like, if you look at the variations in the colouring of an eastern brown snake, it is quite impressive. They're all perhaps a little on the bland side or whatever, but they are extremely diverse, and a lot of people, probably for the best though, a lot of people presume almost every snake is a brown snake or it's a taipan. But like I said, that's probably for the best because it stops people being too stupid, unless where it goes wrong is when people decide they're going to try and kill the snake. And about 90% of admissions into the ER department, accident emergency, from snakebite are because of people trying to kill a snake. Whereas if they just leave it alone, it'll go on its own merry way and no one gets bitten or killed. But around here there's this bit of a good snake is a dead snake sort of thing, and that's not a good thing to do. You will one day get bitten, and people like myself will not care. They'll be like, well, we tried to tell you, but you opted to be an idiot. Okay, Blazing, take care. Rafat, I want to learn a program. Which language should I start with? It really depends on what you're trying to do, in all honesty. The choice of programming language somewhat is dictated by what task you're attempting to perform. In most cases, programmers usually have 2 or 3 different languages that they know. And you just pick the one that's best suited to, well, you assume is best suited. And sometimes you don't give a damn and you just code it in whatever you want to code it in. Like, I'll I probably code far too many things in C, but I'm very comfortable with C, and so I just keep coding in C. Max Rod, yes, I am replacing the SMC. And I'm kind of hoping this one will be a working SMC. I'm a little bit sus about it. I'm a little worried it's going to have a bobbled up underside, but we'll find out when we lift it off and clean it up. It's been a little bit reluctant to come up. There it comes. There we go. Slightly messy, that one. Alright, time to get all the SMC paraphernalia, including... Honestly, where do I put all my SMC gear? Ah, there it is. And of course, naturally, as always, there they are. Oh, you can't see. The little jar of balls for the SMC. So the first step is we've got to clean it up and inspect it to see if it actually is even a viable candidate for this process. So many damn hairs around here. It's like living in a rabbit warren. Max, there's only one SMC on the board. There's obviously many. SMCs are just a generic term for a given chip, system management controller. This has already given me grief. It's quite reluctant to take solder, and I don't want to push it too hard because that's how you get the delamination going. Alrighty. Put 2 little pads up there. Oh, okay, good. Clean off flux excess. The rest we'll just do in our fingers. So we'll just pop this out. We'll have to clean up that in a second. I was about to say in a short moment and a second, and it came out sounding terrible. See these fine wires that you can see in the edge? That's often how the corrosion gets into the SMC. So you might take an SMC off the board, reflow, whatever, and check it and sort of looking at this surface, and you think, yeah, it's all okay. But then what you don't see is that there's this tiny bit of corrosion wicking its way into those little wires on the side. I don't know why I'm cleaning off the edges. I'm just feeling a bit pedantic today. Nice. So yeah, you it only takes one of those wires to get corrosion wicking through it, and it's all over. Okay, so the main thing you've got to watch for with the SMCs is to see if there are any bubbles or popcorning effect on the area. So I'm just looking around. I can't see any real popcorning effect. There's a teeny tiny bit of distortion going on just here. You can just see it there, but I think that's okay. I think we're good. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is clear out the recess that we are going to be using to hold the SMC while we fix it up. Or reball it, rather. We don't want flux in here because when we do the reball process, the primary reason for them jumping out of the stencil is because of excess flux. Yeah, that's good enough. Oh yeah, we better clean the stencil too. Because Mr. Daniels didn't throw it into the alcohol straight away the last time. Nicely done, Paul, nicely done.